Hello, today I'll be reading Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Chapter 10, Halloween. Malfoy couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that Harry and Ron were still in Hogwarts next day, looking tired but perfectly cheerful. Indeed, by morning, Harry and Ron thought that meeting the three-headed dog had been another excellent adventure. And they were quite keen to have another one. In the meantime, Harry filled Ron in about the package that seemed to be moved from the Gringotts to Hogwarts. And they spent a lot of time wondering what could possibly need such heavy protection. It's either very valuable or really dangerous, said Ron. Or both, said Harry. But as all they knew for sure about the mysterious object was that it was about 2 inches long, they didn't have much chance what it was without further clue. Neither Neville or Hermione showed the slightest interest in what lay under the dog and the trapdoor. All Neville cared about was never going near the dog again. Next page. Hermione was refusing to speak to Harry and Ron because she was such a bossy know-it-all that they saw this as an added bonus. All they really wanted now was a way of getting back at Malfoy, and to their great delight, just such a thing arrived with the post about a week later. As the owls flooded into the great hall as usual, everyone's attention was caught at once by a long, thin package carried by large screech owls. Harry was just as interested as everyone else to see what was in this parcel, and was amazed when the owls soared down and dropped it right in front of him, knocking his bacon onto the floor. They had hardly fluttered out of the way when another owl dropped a letter on top of the parcel. Harry ripped open the letter first, which was lucky because it said, "Do not open the parcel at the table. It contains your new Nimbus 2000, but I don't want anyone knowing you've got a broomstick or the want one. Oliver Wood will meet you tonight on the Quidditch pitch at 7 o'clock for your first training session. Professor McGonagall. Professor Minvara McGonagall." Professor McGonagall's full name, and actually I think Professor McGonagall bought it from him because it says from. Harry had difficulty hiding his glee as he handed the note to Ron to read. This is one of my favourite parts, as he gets a broomstick. A Nimbus 3000! Ron enviously. I've never even touched one. They left the hall quickly, wanting to unwrap the broomstick in private before their first lesson. But halfway up the entrance hall, they found the way upstairs barred by Crabbe and Goyle. Malfoy seized the package from Harry and felt it. "That's a broomstick," he said, throwing it back with a mixture of jealousy sparkling his face. "It'll be for this time, Potter. Fascists aren't allowed them." One couldn't resist it. "It's not any old broomstick. It's number 2000. What did you say you've got at home, Malfoy? A Comet 260. I'm going to have it. Comets look flashy, but they're not in the same league as the Nimbus. What would you know about it, Weasley? You couldn't afford half the handle. Malfoy smacked up. I suppose you and your brothers have to say what took by 12. Before Ron could answer, Professor Flitwick appeared at Malfoy's elbow. Not arguing, I hope, boys, he squeaked. Potter's been sent a broomstick, Professor, said Malfoy quickly. Yes, that's right, said Professor Flitwick, beaming at Harry. Professor McGonagall told me all about the special circumstances, Potter. And what model is it? A Nimbus 2000, sir, said Harry, fighting not to laugh at the look of horror on Malfoy's face. And it's really thanks to Malfoy that I've got it, I did. Harry and Ron headed upstairs, smothering their laughter. Malfoy's rage and confusion. Well, it's true, Harry chortled as they reached the top of the marble staircase. If he hadn't stolen Noel's remembrance, I would be in the team. So, I suppose you think that's a reward for breaking rules, came an angry voice from just behind them. Hermione was stomping up the stairs, looking disapprovingly at the package in Harry's hand. I thought you weren't speaking to us, said Harry. Yes, don't stop now. It's just doing something. It's doing us so much good. Hermione marched away with her nose in the air. Harry had a lot of trouble keeping his mind on the lessons that day. He kept wandering up to the dormitory where his new broomstick was lying under his bed, or straying off to the Quidditch pitch where he'd been planning to play that night. He bolted his dinner that evening without noticing what he was eating, and then rushed upstairs with Ron to unwrap the Nimbus 2000 at last. Wow, Ron sighed as the broomstick rolled onto Harry's bedspread. Even Harry, who knew nothing about the different brooms, thought it looked wonderful. Sleek and shiny, with a mahogany handle. It has a long tail of neat, straight twigs. And Nimbus 2000 was written in gold near the top. At 7 o'clock, drew nearer. Harry left the castle and set off towards the Quidditch pitch in the dust. He'd never been inside the stadium before. Hundreds of seats were raised in stands across the pitch so that spectators were high enough to see what was going on. So they were on. At either end of the pitch was 3 golden poles with hoops on the end. They reminded Harry of the little plastic sticks Muggle children blew bubbles through, except that they were 50 feet high. Too eager to fly again to went forward, Harry mounted his broomstick and kicked off the ground. With a feeling He swooped in and out of the goalposts and then sped up and down the pitch. The Nimbus 2000 turned wherever he wanted at his lightest touch. Hey Potter, come down. Oliver Wood had arrived. He was carrying a large wooden crate on his arm. Harry landed next to him. Very nice, said Wood, his eyes glinting. I see what Professor McGonagall meant. You're really a natural. I'm just going to teach you the rules this evening, then you'll be joining team practice 3 times a week. He opened the crate. Inside were 4 different sized balls. Right, said Wood. Now, Quidditch is easy enough to understand, even if it's not too easy to play. Well, there are 7 players on each side. 3 of them are called chasers. 3 chasers, Harry repeated, and Wood took out a bright red ball about the size of a football. 3. No, I said that. This ball was called the quaffle, said Wood. The chasers throw the quaffle to each other and try to get it through one of the hoops to score a goal. 10 points every time the quaffle goes through one of the hoops. Follow me? Next. The chasers throw the quaffle and put it up and put it through the hoops to score. Harry recited, determined to remember it all. So, that's sort of like basketball on broomsticks with 6 hoops, isn't it? What's basketball? Said Wood curiously. What's basketball? Said Wood curiously. Never mind, said Harry quickly. Now, there's another player on each side. It's called the keeper. I'm keeper for Gryffindor. I have to fly around with hoops and stop the other team from scoring. What's basketball? I'm not it. 3 chasers, 1 keeper, said Harry, who was determined to remember it all. And they played with the quaffle. Okay, got that. So what is this? So what are they for? He pointed at the 3 balls left inside the box. I'll show you now, said Wood. Take this. He handed Harry a small club, a bit like a rounder's bat. I'm going to show you what the bludgers do, said Wood. These 2 are the bludgers. He showed Harry 2 identical balls, jet black and slightly smaller than the red quaffle. Harry noticed that they seemed to be straining to stick. The straps holding them inside the box. Stand back, Wood warned Harry. He bent down and freed one of the bludgers. At once, the black ball rose in the air and then pelted straight at Harry's face. Harry swung at it with the bat to stop it, breaking his nose and sent it zigzagging away into the air. It zoomed over their heads and then shot outward. He dived on top of it and managed to pin it to the ground. See? Wood panted, forcing the struggling bludger back into the crate and trapping it down safely. The bludgers rock about trying to knock players off their broom. That's why you have to beat it on each team. The Weasley twins are ours. It's their job to protect their side from the bludgers and try and knock them towards the other team. So I think you've got that. Three chasers try and score with the quaffle. The keeper guards the goal posts. The beaters keep the bludgers away from the team. Harry reeled off. Very good, said Wood. Have the bludgers ever killed anyone? Harry asked, hoping he sounded offhand. Never at Hogwarts. We've had a couple of broken jaws, but nothing worse than that. Now, the last member of the team is the Seeker. That's you. And you don't have to worry about the quaffle or the bludgers, unless they crack my head open. Don't worry, the Weasleys are more than a match for the bludgers. I mean, they're like a pair of human bludgers themselves. Wood reached into the crate and took out the fourth and last board. Compared with the quaffle and the bludgers, it was tiny, about the size of a large walnut. It was bright gold and had little fluttering silver wings. This, said Wood, is the golden snitch, and it's the most important ball of the lot. It's very hard to catch because it's so fast and difficult to see. It's a Seeker's job to catch it. You've got to weave in and out of the chasers, beaters, bludgers, and quaffle to get it before the other team Seeker, whichever Seeker catches the snitch wins his team an extra 150 points, so they nearly always win. That's why Seekers get fouled so much. A game of Quidditch only ends when the snitch is caught, so it can go on for ages. I think the record is 3 months. They had to keep bringing on substitutes so the players could get some sleep. Well, that's it. Any questions? Harry shook his head. He understood what he had to do, all right. It was doing it that was going to be the problem. We won't practice with the snitch yet. Wood carefully shutting it back inside the crates. It's too dark. We might lose it. Let's try you out for a few of these. He pulled a bag of ordinary golf balls out of his pocket, and a few minutes later, he and Harry were up in the air. Wood threw the golf balls as hard as he could in every direction for Harry to catch. Harry didn't miss a single one. And Wood was delighted. After half an hour, night had really fallen and they couldn't carry on. That Quidditch Cup will have our name on it this year, said Wood happily as they trudged back to the castle. I wouldn't be surprised if you turned out better than Charlie Weasley, and he could have played for England if he hadn't gone off chasing dragons. Perhaps it was now so busy. What with Quidditch practice 3 evenings a week on top of all his homework. But Harry could hardly believe it when he realised that he'd already been at Hogwarts 2 months. The castle felt more like home than Privet Drive had ever done. His lessons too were becoming more and more interesting when they had mastered the basics. On Halloween morning, they woke to the delicious smell of baking pumpkin wafting through the corridor. Even better, Professor Flitwick announced in charge that he thought they were ready to start making objects fly. Something they had all been dying to try to see since they'd seen make Neville's toad zoom around the classroom. Professor Flitwick was put the class into pairs to practice. Harry's partner was Seamus Finnegan, which was a relief because Neville had been trying to catch his eye. Ron, however, was to be working with Hermione Granger. It was hard to tell whether Ron or Hermione was angry with this. She hadn't spoken to each of them since the day Harry's broomstick had arrived. Now don't forget that nice wrist movement we've been practicing. Squeaked Professor Flitwick, perched on top of his pile of books as usual. Swish and flick, remember, swish and flick. And say the magic words properly is very important too. Never forget, Wizard Barusi. Never forget, Wizard Barufio. You said instead of a slate, Wizard Barusio. You said S instead of F, so it's supposed to be Wizard Barufio, but the Chancellor said Wizard Barusio. And then found himself on the floor with a buffalo on his chest. And found it was very difficult. Harry and Seamus swished and flicked, but the feather they were supposed to be standing skyward just lay on the desktop. Seamus got so impatient that he put it with his wand and set fire to it. Harry had to put it out with his hat. Ron at the next table wasn't having much more luck. Wingardium Leviosa! Wingardium Leviosa! He shouted, waving his long arms like a windmill. You're saying it wrong. Harry heard Hermione snap. It's Wingardium Leviosa. Make the gar nice and long. You do it then if you're so clever. Hermione rolled up the sleeves of her down. Flicked her wand and said, Wingardium Leviosa. The feather rose up off the desk and hovered about 4 feet above their heads. Oh, well done, cried Professor Flitwick, clapping. Everyone see here. Miss Granger's done it. Ron was in a very bad temper by the end of the class. It's no wonder no one can stand her, he said, as they pushed their way into the crowded corridor. She's a nightmare, honestly. Someone knocked into Harry as they hurried past. It was Hermione. Harry caught a glimpse of her face and saw that she was crying. I think she heard you. So, said Ron, but he looked a bit uncomfortable. She must have noticed. She's got no friends. Hermione didn't turn up for the next class and wasn't seen all afternoon. On the way down to the great hall for the Halloween feast, Harry and Ron overheard Parvati Patil telling her friend Lavender that Hermione was crying in the girls' toilet and wanted to be left alone. Ron looked still more awkward at this, but a moment later they entered the great hall where the Halloween decorations put Hermione out of their mind. 1,000 live bats fluttered from the walls and ceiling, while 1,000 more swooped over the tables in low black clouds, making the candles in the pumpkins stutter. The feast appeared suddenly on the gold plates as it had I was just helping himself to jacket a potato when Professor Quirrell came sprinting into the hall, his turban askew and terror in his face. Everyone stared as he reached the table. Professor Dumbledore's chair slumped against the table and gasped. Trolling the dungeon thought you ought to know. He then sank to the floor in a dead faint. There was an uproar. It took several purple firecrackers to calm them down, to bring silence. Prefect! He rumbled. Lead your houses back to the dormitory. Immediately, Patty was in his element. Follow me. Stick together, first years. No need to fear the troll. If you follow my orders, stay close behind me. Now, make way. First year's coming through. Excuse me, I'm a prefect. How could a troll get in? Harry asked as they climbed the stairs. Don't ask me. They're supposed to be really stupid, said one. Maybe Piers let us in for a Halloween joke. They passed different groups of people hurrying in different They jostled their way through a crowd of confused Hufflepuffs. I suddenly grabbed Ron's arm. I've just thought, Hermione, what about her? She doesn't know about the troll. Ron bit his lip. Oh, all right, he snapped. But Percy not better see us. Ducking down. They joined the Hufflepuff, going the other way. Slipped down a deserted side corridor and hurried towards the girls' toilets. They had just turned the corner when they heard quick footsteps behind them. Percy, hissed Ron, pulling Harry behind a large stone griffin. Peering around, however, he saw that Percy was Snape. He crossed the corridor and disappeared from view. What's he doing? Harry whispered. Why isn't he down in the dungeons with the rest of the teachers? Search me. Quietly as possible, they crept along the next corridor after Snape's fading footsteps. He's heading for the third floor, Harry said, but Ron held up his hand. Can you smell something? Harry sniffed and a foul stench reached his nostrils. A mixture of old socks and the kind of public toilet no one seemed to clean. And they heard it, a low grunting noise and the shuffling of gigantic feet. One pointed. At the end of the passage, something huge was moving towards them. They shrunk into the moonlight, into the shadows, and watched as it emerged into a patch of moonlight. It was a horrible sight. 12 feet tall, its skin was dark, granite grey. Its great lumpy body like a boulder with its little small bald head perched on top like a coconut. It had short legs thick as a tree trunk, flat, horny feet. The smell coming from it was incredible. It was holding a huge wooden club which was dragged along the floor because its arms were so long. The troll stopped next to a doorway and peered inside. It waggled its long ears, making up its tiny mind, and then slouched slowly into the room. The key's in the lock. We could look at it. Good idea, said Ron nervously. They edged towards the open door, mouths dry, praying the troll was about to come out of it. With one great leap, Harry managed to grab the key, slam the door, and lock it. Click! Yes! Flushed with the Victory decided to run back up the passage. But as they reached the corner, they heard something that made their hearts stop. A high, petrified scream. And it was coming from the chamber they just looked up. Oh no! Said hailed as the bloody button. It's the girls' toilet! Harry gasped. Hermione! They said together. It was the last thing they wanted to do, but what choice did they have? Wheeling around, they sprinted back to the door and turned the key, fumbling in their panic. Harry pulled the door open. They ran inside. Hermione Granger was shrinking against the wall opposite as if she was going to faint. The troll was advancing on her, knocking the sinks off the walls as it went. Confuse it, Harry said desperately, and seizing the attack, he threw it hard as he could against the wall. The troll stopped a few feet from Hermione. It lumbered around, blinking stupidly to see what had made the noise. Its mean little eyes saw Harry. It hesitated, then made for him instead, lifting its club as it went. "Or pea-brain!" yelled one from the other side of the chamber as he threw a metal pipe at it. The troll didn't even seem to notice the pipe hitting his shoulder, but it heard the yell and paused again, turning its ugly snout towards Ron instead, giving Harry time to run around it. "Come on, run!" Harry yelled at Hermione, trying to pull her towards the door, but she couldn't move. She was still flat against the wall, her mouth open with terror. The shouting and the echoes seemed to be driving the troll berserk. It roared again and started towards Ron, who was nearest and had no way to escape. Harry then did something that both very brave and stupid. He took a great long running jump and managed to fasten himself around the troll's neck from behind. The troll couldn't feel Harry hanging there, but even the troll would notice if you stick a long bit of wood up its nose, and Harry's one had just been in his hands, and it had gone one of straight up one of the nostrils. Howling with pain, the troll twisted and flailed its club over Harry, clinging on for dear life. Any second, the troll was going to rip him off or catch him a terrible blow with the club. Hermione had sunk to the floor in fright. Ron poured out his own wand, not knowing what he was going to do. He heard himself cry the first spell that came into his head. "Wingardium Leviosa!" The club flew suddenly out of the troll's hand, rose high up into the air, turned slowly, and dropped with a sickening crack onto its owner's head. The troll swayed on the spot and then fell flat onto its face with a thud that made the whole room tremble. Harry had got to his feet. He was shaking and out of breath. It was Hermione who spoke first. "Is it dead?" "I don't think so," said Harry. I think it's just been knocked out." He bent down and poured some wine out of the troll's nose. It had been covered in what looked like lumpy grey glue. Troll, he wiped on the troll's trousers. A suddenly slamming and loud footstep made the three of them look up. They hadn't realized what a racket they had been making, but of course, someone downstairs must have heard the crashes and troubles. A moment later, Professor McGonagall had come bursting into the room, closely followed by Snape, with Crow bringing up the rear. Snape bent over the troll. Professor McGonagall was looking at Ron and Harry. Harry had never seen her look so angry. Her lips were white, hopes of winning 50 points for Gryffindor faded quickly from Harry's mind. "What on earth were you thinking of?" said Professor McGonagall with cold fury in her voice. Harry looked at Ron, who was standing with his wand in the air. "Why aren't you in your dormitory?" Snape gave Harry a swift, piercing look. Harry looked at the floor. He wished Ron was put in wonder. Then a smaller voice came out of the shadows. "Please, Professor McGonagall, they were looking for me." "Miss Granger!" Hermione had managed to get to her feet at last. "I went looking for the troll because I thought I could deal with it on my own, because I read all about them." Ron dropped his wand. Hermione Granger telling a downright lie to a teacher. "If they hadn't found me, I'd be dead now." Harry stuck its wand up its nose and Ron knocked it out with its own club. "They didn't have time to come and fetch anyone. It's about to finish me off when they arrived." Well, Harry and Ron tried to look as though the story was new to them. Well, in that case, Professor McGonagall, staring at the three of them. "Miss Granger, you foolish girl. How could you have thinking tackling mountain troll on your own?" Hermione hung her head. I was speechless. Hermione was the last person to do anything against the rules, and here she was pretending she had to get them out of trouble. It was as if Snape had started handing out sweets. "Miss Granger, 5 points will be taken from Gryffindor for this. I am very disappointed in you. If you're not hurt at all, you'd be better get off Gryffindor Tower." Students are finishing the feast in their house. Hermione left. Professor McGonagall turned to Harry and Ron. "Well, I say, you're lucky. But not many first years could have taken on a full-grown mountain troll. You each will win Gryffindor 5 points. Professor Dumbledore will be informed of this. You may go." They hurried out of the chamber and didn't speak at all until they had climbed 2 floors up. It was a relief to be away from the smell of the troll, quite apart from anything else because it's so stinky. "We should have got more than 10 points, was grumbled. 5, you mean? Once she's taken off Hermione's. Good of her to get out of to get us out of trouble like that. When admitted, mind you, we did save her. She might not have needed saving if we hadn't locked the troll, the thing, in with her. Harry reminded him. They had reached the portrait of the fat lady. Pig snout, they said, and the common room was packed and noisy. Everyone was eating the food that had been sent up. Hermione, however, stood alone, waiting for them. There was a very embarrassed pause. Then none of them looked at each other. They all said thanks and hurried off to get plates. But from then on, Hermione Granger became their friend. There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them. Bye-bye. The end of chapter 10. Bye-bye.